Hey everyone, welcome to the Tom's Hardware Podcast for August 23rd, 2022. As always, I'm Tom's Hardware Editor in Chief, Avram Pilch, joined by Associate Editor Les Pounder, Raspberry Pi expert Ash Hill, and our very special guest, Phil Hutchinson from the Element 14 community. Phil,
Hi.
you've been with the Raspberry Pi community for a really long time, but can you tell folks about what you do and what Element 14 does?
Absolutely, yeah. So Element 14 is, I believe, one of the biggest and oldest maker communities on the internet. We are in our 14th year at Element 14, which is how I remember it. We have about 850,000 current members, and we have all sorts of stuff. We start off with discussion, so you can come and bring your questions to us. You can come and bring your projects to us, and or even your problems to us, and we'll talk about them on the community. And then we've got a bunch of competitions, build challenges, and then of course we've got Element 14 Presents. We've got webinars, we've got ebooks, and I can go into all of it if you want, but I don't want to talk too much on just an introduction. It's nice to meet you all. Hi.
Yeah, it's really wonderful to have you on. So how long have you been with Element 14?
I think I've been with Element 14 for about 6 years now. And that doesn't feel that long, but that's half of the time that the community's been around. And before that, I was maker, and I was a Raspberry Pi user. Funnily enough, I actually came at the maker scene from like a very different angle to a lot of people. I was a technical manager for a chain of nightclubs, like really high-end nightclubs, and they had huge geocidic domes. And the geocidic domes had LED strips, and everything was kind of run with Raspberry Pis. And it was just kind of like, we're doing an art installation this week. We need something to run it. And I was like, Raspberry Pi. We need to do this. We need to track people coming in, Raspberry Pi. Anything like that, little bit of Arduino, lots of Raspberry Pi, and it just kind of, I really got like a day in, day out end user experience of implementing little things uh, using the Raspberry Pi to make my day-to-day job kind of run. And places where I've met Les before, for example, is Leeds Hackspace. I'm a member there, a volunteer there. I literally helped build some of the walls when they've been moving. And yeah, just getting into that from actually using them to implement things. So I had no formal training, I had no formal programming experience, no electronics experience. And now, as I'm sure a lot of us in the community are, I'm just dangerous enough with a little bit of knowledge every single, little bit. You know, I can't weld, but I can weld. I can't solder, but I can solder. You know what I mean? So that's kind of where I came from.
So before the nightclubs, did you play with the Pi or did you go out looking for a board to fit the bill and end up there?
Well, a little bit guided by the Leeds Hackspace. I kind of was moving into the introduction to Raspberry Pi, introduction to Arduino, and then for it to become my career is really cool. I get to run build competitions on the community, which I can go in and talk to about whenever you want. Um, and I get to look after uh, swathes of people that are building cool Raspberry Pi projects and actually using it. It's
Yep.
great to see when people have problems. Like, I shouldn't be in a career where I enjoy people having problems with things, because that then starts a huge discussion of people going, oh, well, I'll help you with this. I've done that. And then you get, no, that's terrible that way. We'll do it this way. And that's always the way it's been on the Element 14 community, 14 years now. So getting involved there has just really let my little ADHD brain go buzz, because it's a new project, it's something new, somebody's created something cool, wow, that's a really cool implementation. That's my everyday job, and I wouldn't be here without the Raspberry Pi, really. So I'm like super chuffed and really excited to be, chatting with you guys about it today.
That's awesome. Now,
So
you've mentioned about the build competition for Element
Sure.
14. Now, I want to talk about that, but also I want to mention that we've had 2 members of Element 14 community on the show already.
Oh yeah.
We had Katie Demont on.
Oh yeah, Katie.
And
Yeah.
Lorraine Underwood. Now, I know
Hey.
Lorraine at the minute is hacking something very special. It's in my hometown. As everyone knows, I live in Blackpool. And the illumination start, the big miles and miles of LEDs and DMX-controlled things on the promenade. And she's building something with Blackpool Council illumination team.
Yeah,
That's
and
quite interesting.
for anybody that's an international viewer, the Blackpool illuminations are really, a yearly tradition, and they are incredible. Like historically, lighting up this entire historic seaside town with lights was kind of a huge undertaking. Massive electrical bills, and now it's become like an artistic endeavor. People
Yep.
are really putting in thoughts, and Lorraine, for example, is doing some really clever stuff with, I believe, computer vision and projectors, and I don't know what I can get into because I don't know what people know about it. But it's really cool. It's really cool. And Katie's great as well. Katie and Lorraine are also part of our Element 14 Presents YouTube channel, which you can check out on YouTube with Element 14 Presents. They build a load of projects. And we most recently met up at EMF Camp, which is one of the big UK hacker camps. It's very good.
Awesome.
I just had to look up that Blackpool illuminations, and it pretty much looks like the Main Street Electrical Parade from Disneyland, but all over
Right.
a much bigger space.
Yep.
That's pretty amazing. I think the Pi would be really well suited for that environment for sure. You can make it.
They have
really
made some
interactive.
investigations with Pi controlling illuminations originally about 5 or 6 years ago. They were looking at how to integrate Pi with DMX because all the animated things on the promenade are controlled by DMX, a standard nightclub lighting and venue control system. And it's surprisingly easy. You can fake DMX with GPIO really simply.
Wow, that is great. So, I'm just curious, and we won't tell. I don't think of the people who are tuned in. Any of them are burglars. How many Raspberry Pis do you have?
Me in my house? Oh,
Yeah.
I have all of the important. So I've got maybe 10, whether they're on or whether I'm just keeping them because I love them. I've got RetroPie, which is plugged into my TV. I've got Plex running on another. So they're the defaults. I have a currently broken Magic Mirror, which I absolutely need to repair. I have my
Is the mirror part
OctoPie.
broken or the electronic part?
The programming parts. The programming part. I think I switched it off. It's an early Pi, so I think I switched it off while it was writing or reading, and I think it needs a wee reflash. I have I have OctoPie, as you said. I have one sat. We were having a little natter before we got started, just for the audience.
Yeah.
I've got another one starting, which is going to be. I'm rebuilding a K40 laser cutter at the moment.
Nice.
I found one behind an arts and crafts store that was propped up against a wall, and I was like, I will liberate that and turn it into a project I don't have time
Jammy.
So you're going to use the Pi to control it, like replace the controller?
Yeah, you can. Is it LightScribe? There's one of the main open source ones runs on uses a Raspberry Pi bridge to do a lot of so that I can control it from my computer, but with the Raspberry Pi in the garage or whatever. And yeah, a few other things. Pi-hole as well is very useful. Yeah.
Yep.
So what you've got is a bunch of those are just off-the-shelf programs that a lot of people use, and I found those very easy to kind of implement in my day-to-day life. And then we've got Raspberry Pi running the door system at Leeds Hackspace. For example, I've got my camera tracking on. I need to just turn this off. There we go. I've got an NFC chip implanted in my hand that when you tap it against the the card reader at the
Mhm.
hack space. It verifies who I am, and yeah, you get the idea.
So when you say implanted in your hand, I think you kind of buried a lead there. So
Yeah.
you have like under your skin.
I do. I have a. You can read about it on the Element 14 community, which I can sneakily throw in the chat.
Yeah, do that.
Yeah, I've got a subdermal NFC and RFID chip. It's
Mhm.
very, very, very similar technology. What they do to pets, dogs, and cats. It's a
So if you get lost, they can send you home.
Correct.
Yes.
Correct. Yeah. Yeah. That's if I've had too many drinks, they know where to send me. They scan me at the vets. Yeah.
Yeah.
Comes in handy.
Yeah, and
Makes-
because it's NFC and RFID, the RFID is great for entry control. So at the moment, I've got it on house with a PIN code and the Leeds hack space with an additional PIN code. So for anybody that goes, well, I'll just chop your hand off and jump in, or I'll grab your PIN,
Gotta know
they
the
need both.
password.
Absolutely, two-factor authentication.
So is that something you can tap into, like if you wanted to like use the same code on a Raspberry Pi project, so it can be used on multiple areas?
Absolutely, yeah. Because it has a unique device ID. If I add an NFC thing, I can tap it, and I could use it to turn on or off, such as door entry control at Leeds Hackspace, or one of them. The Raspberry Pi will be looking at the NFC, the NFC, scan it and go, unique ID, that's Phil. Phil coming in, get his PIN code, those two match, and they open the solenoid on the door. That's the oversimplified version. Yeah, it's really good. I also, because it has NFC on it instead of RFID, I can also tap my phone on it, and I can use it as a business card. So like literally just you tap your phone on and it'll light up and it'll bring up my Twitter account or whatever.
Well, with the right hack, you could be your own amiibo.
Literally, I've seen someone do that, and yes, you're right. There are to be nerdy. There are certain frequencies and certain bit sets, and so different chips can do different things. So I can't do everything NFC, and I can't do everything RFID, but it's a great fun starting point. And yeah, that was another Leeds Digital Festival that we went to and met some other biohackers. It was very interesting, and again, something that would never have happened, and something I use massively because of the Raspberry Pi. Did it hurt? Absolutely. It hurt as much as any piercing.
Right. So will you need to get an upgrade at some point?
I will when the technology becomes older and nobody uses the 13.5 megahertz that's on it.
Does it sound off in airport security?
Does not, and I've also been in an MRI scanner before as well.
That was my next question.
Wow. I can be in up to a Tesla 5, which a 5 Tesla MRI scanner, which is currently research grade.
Kevin's really interested in this.
Cool.
I think he wants to get one of these. So we'll just have Kevin come on the show and have it inserted live.
Yeah.
He asked
how we
got it inserted.
There we go. I got it from a reputable supplier who is a company called Dangerous Things that have a multiple of documentaries based around them. You can look them up. And then I went to a professional British body modification person. They do everything from PSDs to other more surgically inclined stuff. So if anybody wants to click on that, please read my blog on the Element 14 community. And
Life as a cyborg.
Life as a cyborg, day 0. Yeah. There is warnings for needles, but you don't actually see anything. So, but yeah, that's how I became a maker and ended up like literally my career exists because of Raspberry Pi. And I've done nothing but, I share my screen because I've got some cool stuff to show you.
Yeah,
Is that all right?
Yeah,
please
go
do.
for it.
So this one here, and then I can do this and that, and there we go. So are you able to see that? Fantastic.
Yes.
So obviously element14.com, community.element14.com is the Element 14 community. We have a bunch of amazing content on here for Raspberry Pi. So obviously we talk about the Raspberry Pi. You can get involved with conversations about the Raspberry Pi, but we have things such as real interviews, direct with Eben Upton and the rest of the Raspberry Pi team, who we love. We have, because we're some of the first people to be involved with Raspberry Pi, and some of the original people to manufacture and distribute the Raspberry Pi, we have a long history with Raspberry Pi, such as in our 10 years of Raspberry Pi, because obviously that's been very recently, which is exciting. Yep. We even have Eben and Liz dropping off the first Raspberry Pis with us to be sold on the day they came to market, pretty much, which is pretty exciting. We got some lovely embarrassing old photos of them, which I'm sure they'll love me showing. And you can tell how old this picture is just by the size of the photo. And then we've got lots of content about the original
prototypes,
the alpha boards, first time it played Doom, of course, all the good stuff that you want to know. We do have, let's have a quick look. I wanted to show this off. So this is Wes, one of our community members and VCP, and video creator for Element 14 Presents, created a giant Raspberry Pi 3, which is working. The GPIO pins are connected to a Raspberry Pi on the back, and that is the Raspberry Pi 3 box. So it's a good couple of feet across, and cool. We're currently giving it away as well on the community. So you can actually, if you really want, to go get it. I'll put the link in chat as well, so people can go and grab that.
Dun, dun, dun.
So let me just
click
on that.
Too.
I would totally hang that behind me.
That's good.
I would totally hang that behind me.
Is it hack compatible?
Sorry, say again, Liz.
Is it hack compatible?
If you build a hat to go with it, I will be thoroughly impressed.
So will I.
And yeah, it's absolutely massive. There's a standard sized adult beverage with it as well. In there. Nice. That is currently available. All you need to do is jump onto this blog post, which I'll put the link in chat for you as well. Along with all of this, as I say, we specialize in build projects as well as. So my personal speciality with the Element 14 community are design challenges, which are 11-week long build challenges where we get people to build things. And we've got some amazing pun-based Raspberry Pi ones, because every year I get to do my favorite ones, which is the Raspberry Pi Challenge. We have Pi Fest, which is just currently closing, where we're hosting a music-themed festival with Raspberry Pi. And we've got a bunch of projects, people building synthesizers from scratch with the Raspberry Pi, performing live with them, creating drum machines with the Raspberry Pi. And giving that away, we're giving away some of the the SM7B Shure microphones, which are super cool, Go XLRs, and a load of Ticketmaster vouchers. We also had, because they're always puns, we did a bunch of 1 meter of Pi, which is you are sent into space with only a Raspberry Pi and 1 square meter of space, and you have to feed your crew who you're going off into space with. So it's a hydroponics and indoor food growing competition. Cool. All within 1 meter of space. We've got a bunch of really cool hydroponic systems that are managed exclusively by the Raspberry Pi, a robotic system which would pick and place plants, which is really cool. Someone left theirs running for the whole period of the design challenge and sealed it, which was really cool. And then this person actually built one under their university bed at university, and was fantastic until I got a message after the challenge to say that the bottom of his mattress had gone moldy because he'd left damp plants underneath his bed. I'll throw him under the bus for that one. We also have Pie Chef, where every year, because we do this year in particular, we did a food related one. So the winner created a fire safe cooker hood, which had thermal readings, so it could tell if individual hobs were on or off just by looking at how hot they were, cooling them down,
Cool.
and would also message the family that dinner was ready or whatever. And an automatic remote barbecue system for steaming and smoking, which is really cool. Just loads of cool challenges. And then we had a really weird art one, which was really cool. And we had one of our top community members, Enrico, make he rented out a full art space for a month and put on a Raspberry Pi art exhibition where each of the projects were based on Raspberry Pi, which is really cool. A hologram system. Here's Wes with his giant Raspberry Pi, which was really cool. So basically every year we get to do one big Raspberry Pi design challenge, and on top of that we have the ebooks and webinars. In fact, that's something I did want to talk about. Upcoming, we've got a webinar with Roger at Raspberry Pi talking about the RP 2040, and that's this Thursday. So if anybody wants to do anything with anything I'm talking about today, that's the one thing to go sign up for. You get to talk to Roger direct about the RP 2040. So that's
Cool.
That's really exciting for me.
Interesting.
All right, I've been monologuing. So yeah, if you
You're our
guys got any
guest. You're supposed
questions,
to.
That's
I
okay.
appreciate it.
That's
Beautiful.
great. This is awesome. This is just so awesome. I especially love the giant Raspberry Pi.
it's pretty cool,
I've
right?
got a question about the design competition. If you
Yes.
already answered this, I'm sorry if I missed it, but what is the theme for this year? Just the current design contest that's going on.
The current one was the music challenge, it's Pi Fest,
Okay.
and everybody that entered that competition and submitted any entry is going to be featured on a festival poster, and we're going to be sending them all a poster, and the winners are going to be the headliners, and the runner-ups going to be the support act, and then anybody else that entered and actually submitted anything is the bands, and we're going to be finishing that up. With a performance as well. We've got some people coming on to perform, but you'll just have to follow the Element 14 community social media to find out what that's all about.
Nice.
Awesome. So I think whoever gets the giant Raspberry Pi should also buy the giant keyboard switches that you can get. I don't know if anyone has seen those. Adafruit sells some. They're like, novel. I think Novel Keys made them. They're like this big, and so to make a keyboard out of them, you'd need quite a lot of space. Although the highlight of my entire career, I think, was when I went to CES one year and Razer had a keyboard made out of the giant switches that you could type on at their booth.
Oh,
So
that
I
had
got
to
a
be
video.
like
So I got a video of
crazy.
myself typing on it, and I have no idea what happened to that keyboard since then. Every time I meet with Razer, which we do periodically, like, hey, what happened to your giant keyboard? They're like, we don't know. Who has it? What happened to it? Sad time.
We'll just have to make our own Pi powered or something.
I know. Speaking of things that one makes, Ash, you have some impressive things to show today, don't you?
Oh, yes. Okay, so earlier this year, the Raspberry Pi celebrated its 10th birthday, which is pretty remarkable. But something that goes along with that is the community and third-party businesses that have just absolutely excelled in this Raspberry Pi world and microelectronics in general. So I wanted to talk today about Pimoroni's 10-year anniversary. They started creating Raspberry Pi projects all the way back in 2012. And they've since then gradually branched out into other areas, including Arduino, microbit, and so much more. We've had Pimoroni on the show before. We're definitely big fans of their work, so I might be a little biased, but look behind me. Can you blame me? So I wanted to share with you guys some of the best Pimoroni products that we've seen over the last decade, just to celebrate this milestone, because they really deserve it. So hopefully a few of you watching will find something fun to tinker with, and if not, it's cool stuff. Let's look at it anyway, right? So I talk about first thing. I talk about this a lot. But I've got to give a shout out to the Piecade, because retro gaming and the Raspberry Pi, I mean, it goes with the Raspberry Pi like peanut butter and jelly. Like, I think even our guest Phil said earlier, he has a Pi dedicated to Retro Pi. Everyone likes to retro game on the Raspberry Pi. And this is a DIY arcade cabinet. It can fit a Raspberry Pi 3. It can fit a Raspberry Pi 4, if you can get a hold of one. But it's beautiful, it works, and it's always a big hit whenever people come over. But they've done so much more than that. So much more. So I'm going to switch my screen over and show you guys. The first thing I want to talk about, it's actually a recent creation. Let me pull up the screen. That's their website. But I want to talk about the Badger 2040. Yeah. And the reason I want to talk about this one is because, well, of course, it's newer, so that's always exciting. But microelectronics conventions are really important to the community. And this gadget makes for a really fun Pi-powered way to create a custom badge for cons, but you can also use it for a wider variety of projects. We had, I believe his name is Brian Cortelli. Is that the right name?
Brian Corteil.
Corteil, thank you. We had him on the show, and he used a handful of these, like quite a few, to make, well, you just have to go check it out. I can't get the name of it right. What was it that he made? It like spun around, and you had to look through the slit to see the animated image.
It was Zoetrope. It's called Zoe.
That's it, a Zoetrope, and he did call it Zoe, didn't he? That was a really cool use case for these, because they are small screens, and that was just a good example of what else you could use it for. But on the heels of the Badger 2040 is the new Inky frame. I know Avram likes this one, and the one I have displayed here is the 5.7-inch version. But it uses the new Pico W. It has a 7-color e-ink display, so you can get really creative when it comes to customizing a wearable badge with this one. But the other one I wanted to mention that I think everyone should look at this, especially if you're into gardening, is there, and they have a whole array of gardening-based products. EnviroGrow. These are ideal for anyone who wants to monitor plants, integrate them with bigger systems for like automated monitoring. They could do things like track moisture and temperature, and it's just really easy to get off the ground without having to buy a bunch of components separately and try to get them all working together. These are just, I don't want to say plug and play, but they are fairly plug and play. They've got the Pimoroni community is pretty vast, and you can find support for setting up these devices pretty easily, but this is definitely a good one for anyone who's looking to garden. But when the Pico came out, the team went absolutely crazy making really cool boards for tinkering. And the first one I want to show off was the Pico system, because, I mean, I like handheld gaming. Who doesn't? Again, retro gaming on the Raspberry Pi, it just goes hand in hand. But this uses a Pico. So I don't think you're going to do much retro gaming on this, but people can develop their own games on the Pico system to play and take it with them on the go, if you have the right battery pack. And in addition to this, you've got the Pico Explorer base. And I'll touch on what this, what led to the development of this in a minute. But this is a really nice platform for just tinkering. It's got an LCD screen. You solder your Pico into place. You've got a couple of breakouts. You've got a breadboard to play with. So you can really play with the Pico without having to solder anything together. If you're a student or if you're a teacher looking to get your students into playing with microelectronics, this would be a good option to consider for just getting a good idea of how these components can play together, but not have to worry about something that's too permanent. And, oh, what else do I have here? Ooh, the Pico display pack. Yes. This one, it's a tiny IPS display, and it's got a couple of, well, not a couple, it's got 4 buttons on it, and it hooks up to the Pico. And you can integrate this into so many different projects. I've seen people make system monitors and all kinds of fun stuff that take advantage of not just the buttons, but just the fact that you've got a beautiful IPS display powered by a Pico. That's pretty awesome, right? And I also wanted to touch on, a lot of these are Pico based. I can't help it. Their Pico products are vast, and I think a lot of people are still excited about the Pico W. So this next one is also Pico powered. It's the keypad base. I know we've seen a lot of Raspberry Pi powered keypads in the past, but I like this one because you got the Pico connected to it. It's got these clear keycaps and RGB LEDs, and maybe you could use it to make a synth for some Element 14 projects, I'm not sure. And then what I wanted to touch on earlier when I mentioned the Pico Explorer is one of their most popular projects is the Explorer hat. Les might actually have one on hand. I'm not sure if he does. But it plugs into the Pi and it opens up just a beautiful interface for tinkering on the Pi, again, without the need to solder. It's definitely a go-to Pimoroni product.
Yes, definitely it is.
It's crucial. And another, what do you have? No,
I have in front of me the keypad because I've got a whole bunch of Pimoroni stuff in the drawer over here.
What do you think about it? Do you find yourself using it or just tinkering with it?
This one is more of a tinker with one because the keys are not like I have a Keybow which uses mechanical keys, which I could use for like more serious stuff, but this is a little bit, the keys on it are not like, are kind of rubbery, so they're fun. It's more of a fun one than a useful one. Now but they also have the Keybow 2040. I have an older Keybow over here that uses a Raspberry Pi Zero. That's not quite as cool because you need to use the Zero you need to program it as Zero, which isn't ideal. The one that uses the Pico or the RP 2040 is better. I had around here the Adafruit MacroPad RP 2040, which I think while I like the Keybows, is kind of the gold standard for like little Raspberry Pi controlled keyboards. But my son has repossessed it, or I should say possessed it, so he can use it for playing Minecraft. And he's like using it every day. He's got like different Minecraft things assigned to every key. So that's pretty cool. I mean, one of the Pimoroni things that there's so many great Pimoroni things. I feel like Pimoroni and Adafruit are like the two pillars that are two pillars that really like hold up. Just like they make all the cool stuff that that you can use to really get great use out of your Pi. I love the Breakout Garden stuff from Pimoroni because there's just so many really cool little boards, and that whole ecosystem is just a lot of fun to use and to get things out of. But Les, I know you have you go way back with Pimoroni, and I know you have a special Pimoroni board you wanted to show.
I'm not there yet.
Oh,
I wanted to lead up to that. Yeah,
okay.
I had one more thing to show before Les's because he actually has the board that I wanted to talk about. So he's going to show off the very last thing. I wanted to touch on the unicorn hat because I can't talk about LEDs without talking about the unicorn hat. Les, again, probably has one on hand. It's another classic tool that you need if you want to play around with the Pi. But again, this is just some of the many amazing products that the team has created. And there's a good reason that Pimoroni has had success over the years. And it's because the team is driven by a personal passion that they have for microelectronics, just like the customers they're selling to. So to tie up our list, what I wanted to showcase is the very first board that Pimoroni ever created. It's called the Pi Glow. And this add-on features a spiral layout of LEDs, I think 18 in total, and it's still sold today. It's compatible with any 40-pin model of the Raspberry Pi. And Les, I will pass it over to you. Show it off and take it away.
Rightio, yes. The Pi Glow, or if you didn't read it correctly, the Pig Glow. It has been called out by people. It's a fun little board. It used to fit with the 26-pin GPIO of the old Raspberry Pi, but it still works with a 40-pin as well. And I've got one on hand right now. So this isn't my original one. I gave my original one away a few years ago. This is at least, now this product, I think about 6 or 7 years old, this product. And it is Pimoroni's very first electronic project that they sold. This was it. This is where it all started with their pick and place machines and all their fabrication stuff they got now. It all started with this tiny little thing here. It's an SN3218 PWM LED controller on the board. Did the research before the show this time. And it's got a Python library, really easy to work with. Now, I've been trying to hack it to work with a Pico. I have failed, but failure is good. So I've been hacking around with this little breakout board from Red Robotics, which breaks it out to a standard GPIO header for a Pi. Not working yet, but I'm going to get there soon. But I've got some code I'm going to run now. Let's go to the right screen. So let's have a look in the code itself. Python library is easy. We import the library, and then we can use either the colors of the LEDs. So each LED has its own color. These are not RGB addressable. They're addressable in that I can control individual LEDs, but they all have a set color. So I've got red, orange, yellow, green, blue, and white. So I can say for the 18 LEDs that are on there, set each LED to half brightness, 128, it goes up to 255. Say show, wait for 0.2 of a second, then clear the screen. So clear the display. Or I can do a reverse for loop, which will go around the list of 18 different LEDs in reverse order and do different animations. I can go through all the colors, and this is a really cool one. It actually reminds me of the Predator's targeting reticule when he's hunting someone. So don't get worried, anyone. Okay, we're all fine. And then just because I have to, I've done my disco animation, but I've done it on this. So it's not as proper disco. It does look a bit, I mean, you can tell it's not random. It's pseudo-random.
I was hoping for disco.
Sorry, but it's
No,
it's
this
there.
is good.
Answering questions from the comments. Vim, I can't use Vim. I don't know how to get out of Vim. I think I'm still trying on a machine somewhere. So I'm sticking with Nano. It works for me. Whatever works for you, use it. Have fun. So I'm going to save this now and exit. And let's run the code. And you should be able to see here. So if you take a look there, you'll see, first of all, it spirals inwards, then outwards. Then all the colors will come on individually. Then it goes disco. There we go. This is half brightness. I put it on full brightness before, and it is very bright. There you go. Predator is targeting you right now. It's a fun little board. So I first used this board when it first came out, and it was with the Unicorn Hat as well at the time. And we did an event for children at Blackpool Pleasure Beach where we asked the kids to design Blackpool illuminations with this board and Unicorn Hat, and they did it with Scratch. So this little board works with Scratch, it works with Node-RED, it works with Go, which I found out today, so I'm having a tinker with that, and obviously it works with Python. So right now, not a sales pitch, it's half price, it's £5.50, which is really cheap for this. When it's full price, £11, it's still worth a bit of fun, but it's half price now, so grab one while you can.
It's arguably an important part of Raspberry Pi history.
Well, that's it, yeah. But going back to the history of Pimoroni, I was chatting before the show with Pimoroni themselves. And I had a chat about their first product. So this is PyGlobe, is their first product they ever made of electronics. The first product that was a success, that was a big thing for them, was Pybo. And that was on the cover of Wired magazine many years ago. So that was the thing that made them absolutely popular. And they've sold, memory serves, 250,000 Pybos now.
Wow.
Wow.
That's a fair number. And they also gave me another stat as well. They're just throwing stats out like Stato today. They've manufactured 1 million products so far in
That's
10
great.
years. That's not bad at all, is it, really?
No.
I think a bunch of my Pis are still in the original rainbow laser cut cases.
Nice.
That came, like, in the early days, they would come in, kind of brown envelopes, basically,
Yeah.
and you'd stack them up individually and put the little pegs through, and they're fantastic. Honestly, us Element 14 community, huge Pimoroni fans. I'm based in the Leeds office for Element 14. We're here, Chicago, and a few other places around the world, and I'm lucky enough to be 30 minutes away from Pimoroni, which is really cool. And as someone that sees a bunch of Raspberry Pi accessories coming and going in early stages, late stages, they get it so right, because the PCB art is gorgeous, the documentation is amazing, the software and demo support is unbelievable, and everything just works and looks good. Like, it's the holy grail of Raspberry Pi stuff, because you literally get somebody creating the best accessory you've ever seen in your life, and then the documentation's rubbish, or the demos are terrible, or the other way around, it's just too intense. They strike a beautiful middle ground, and honestly, us in the Element 40 community, we are huge fans of them.
Well, do you have any favorite boards of theirs that you've used before?
My desk name tag has been their 7 or 9 segment display for like up until the pandemic. So like literally people would find me by looking for my name, scrolling across the board.
Oh,
Yeah,
cool.
I love that.
Micro.fat? Is that
I
one?
think so. Yeah. They
Nice.
also have the GPIO hack, which is the PCB that breaks each of them out to a second hole, so that you can, if you've got something in one set of 40-pin GPIO, you can access the same pins kind of just offset to the side. And just like that type of stuff's brilliant. Like just the whole ecosystem and the art. Like you've seen another thing is even the Twitter account is really good, because yesterday or the day before, someone was going, oh, I really wish I knew what the sticky tape is that they use to attach their screens. And they were so open about it. And they were like, it's this particular SKU number. It's from 3M. Do what you want with it, but it's always worked for us. And it's like, that is the type of company you get behind. We also do sell some of their stuff. You can buy direct, and we have them on the Farnell and Element 14 and New York websites as well. So you can always go grab some of those.
I'm glad you mentioned the
That's my
artwork.
plug. Yeah.
Because we can thank Pimmeroni's Phil, I believe is his name, for the Pi logo.
Is it?
Oh, yeah,
I didn't know that.
They had a contest.
Oh, because it was the contest. Yeah.
Yeah, it was Guru. Yeah.
Yeah.
Nice.
Thanks for that.
Yes. Amazing. Well, thank you so much, Phil, for joining us. Thanks for everyone for listening and watching. We will be off next week, preparing for the week after, which will be our 100th episode, where we are going to have some very special guests. So thank you all for watching and listening, and we will see you all again on Tuesday the 6th at our normal time of 7:30 p.m. UK time, 2:30 p.m. US Eastern time. We'll see you later. Bye, everyone.
Thanks for having me on.